Good evening, everybody. This is a live update as we have a dangerous tornado-warned storm. It's passing very close to the RIPON, Wisconsin area, just southwest of Oshkosh, but damaging winds likely did impact EAA there in Oshkosh, but the most dangerous portion of that storm is passing just to the west of Oshkosh, just to the north of RIPON as well. Rain-wrapped circulation as well. Here, very dangerous rain-wrapped circulation. You can see this large RFD gust front here, the hook echo, and you can see a lot of strong northerlies here ripping in, a lot of streamwise vorticity getting pulled into the north side of the storm. You can see the inflow coming in here as well. Here's Oshkosh to the northeast side of your screen. It's also passing to the west of Nakimi. RIPON, though, looks like that circulation is just to your east or very close to town right now, and it looks like it's mostly damaging RFD in RIPON right now. The main circulation right now with this is a little bit east of RIPON, but you're getting big time northerlies out there, very damaging winds. Mobile homes likely will have much difficulty staying intact within some of these very strong winds. Possible tornado could be tightening up between Rosendale and Pickett there, but right now this looks like relatively broad rotation with this, with just a massive sprawling RFD. Look at this mesocyclone here. Usually you can get little spin-ups, you can get tornadoes that will develop within this, but this is a very large zone of potential vorticity here that could easily tighten up anywhere within that zone to the east of RIPON, northeast of Alto there. Fond du Lac is also included in that warning. And with this area right here potentially tightening up and becoming that tornadic portion of the storm, Fond du Lac definitely needs to keep an eye on this storm as well. Not seeing anything in terms of the correlation coefficient with this storm right now, but it does have the potential of producing a tornado. Could be at the very least damaging winds. RIPON, can someone help me with the pronunciation there? Definitely looks like you're getting some big time RFD, potentially even damaging there. On the west side of that mesocyclone, and with this southeasterly moving storm, it's the very west side of the mesocyclone within this strong RFD that you're going to get the strongest winds. So even though this storm sometimes has not been tornado warned during its life cycle, it does have this long-lived mesocyclone, which certainly does have the potential of causing even more damaging winds within it. And look at this massive bulging RFD. The RFD gust fronts right here. Weak echo region as well. Not completely bounded until you go up and tilt on your elevation there. But this is radar indicated, not confirmed, not seeing any at least tornadic debris getting lofted up by that mesocyclone there. But this is part of a larger QLCS event, quasi-linear convective system, or long-lived derecho, heading off to the south. And the eastern portion of this storm is the one that's tornado warned. Heading toward Fond du Lac as well. Fond du Lac, you want to be in your safe place. RIPON, you're just getting hammered, just getting ripped by those northerlies right now on the west side of this large HP supercell. And I suspect that this massive RFD here is likely going to become a bow echo as this event is starting to transition into more of a linear type of a mode here. But look at how close it came to Oshkosh. Very close to causing major problems there to a lot of RVs. Ripping. RFD is ripping and ripping out there right now in Wisconsin. Getting some big northerlies, northwesterlies right now, probably 70 miles an hour. And ripping. Thank you for that pronunciation. Storm heading off to the south. You can see the massive storm relative inflow coming in from the south here. Big forward flank gust front boundary there. Right now, Fond du Lac's probably getting a little bit of wind, some heavy rain as well. And then you're going to pass into this inflow zone as the storm heads off to the southeast. The rain is going to lighten a little bit. Your southerlies are going to increase. And then you're going to look off to the west and see a mega shelf cloud with this large bulging RFD right here. This is a big time RFD. Within that, big northwesterlies within this right now. A lot of atomized rain as well to the south of RIPON. Alto, that RFD gust front is knocking on your doorstep just off to the north. Likely a mega shelf that you can see, likely visible there. And right, just got that tweet sent out as well. Going back to radar, that RFD continues to bulge. RIPON, looks like the tornadic portion of that storm is off to your southeast now, so you're just getting some big-time northerlies on the west side of that mesocyclone right now. Right now, it looks like it's mainly a windbag event. You can see this bulging RFD here. RIPON getting those big northwesterlies right now, probably 60 to 70 miles an hour. It's trying to tighten up there on the north side of that RFD bulge, but right now is not able to do that. But just massive damaging winds associated with this whole entire complex, this bulging RFD. And this supercell storm is starting to turn into a quasi-linear convective system, so you can definitely see that RFD starting to bulge out to the south. Locations like Alto, Fond du Lac. The tornadic portion of this storm would probably develop further up the RFD, and this is a big-time bulging RFD here. RIPON getting hammered by that RFD off to the northwest. Watching for tightening up of that vorticity there on the north side, the cyclonic vorticity generation side of that RFD. Well, this is definitely what we're looking at right now. I don't think that a damaging tornado appears too incredibly likely with this, but damaging winds, even equivalent of tornado strength, are certainly possible within this large RFD on the backside, and even in the inflow on the north side of the storm. Definitely some damaging winds up there. But we got to watch this zone right here for tightening up of that rotation. You've got wind toward the radar there, wind away from the radar to the north side of it. Radar side off to the northeast. We're using the Green Bay radar. Shift on down south of the storm. Maybe we can get a cleaner look at this thing. And if it did have a tornado, it would definitely tighten up in this location. This is the cyclonic vorticity side of this large arc-shaped bulging RFD. You get big westerlies and northwesterly winds behind that RFD that are pretty damaging there now to the southeast part of RIPON. But when you get these westerlies right there and the inflow wrapping it on the north side, you can get the generation of cyclonic spin there that can stretch into the vertical underneath that mesocyclone. And you can definitely get tornado potential there. EAA is off to the northeast in Oshkosh. So the most dangerous portion of this storm stayed just off to the southwest of Oshkosh. The large sprawling RFD, potential for tornado generation on the northern side of that bulging RFD right about there. So Fond du Lac, the tornadic portion of that bulging RFD is closer to you, but this large zone of damaging straight line winds within that RFD to the west of that is to the west, to the south of RIPON, heading in toward the Alto area. You're about to get hammered by big time straight line winds, northerly winds out there. Within this massive RFD, enhanced on the by the storm motion as well, which is in the same direction as the northerlies within this RFD, and it tried to produce a tornado up there to the north of RIPON, and now that RFD has bulged out as this storm is definitely going linear, and this is the time when you get some of the strongest winds within these QLCS patterns is right behind a bulging RFD just like this. So that's exactly what's happening. Alto, that gust front's about to rip through your location, and then you're going to get those damaging northerly winds. Waupun, you're next. Boy, these Wisconsin names are tough to pronounce. I do know a lot of them because I grew up in Michigan. Let's see what the warning says. I'm not seeing any tornadoes on here based on the correlation coefficient. But even if there's not a tornado, the winds are so damaging within that. Many of the warning statements are saying 70, 80. Waupun, 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 Waupun. Yeah, possibly over 100-mile-an-hour winds coming in here from the north between Brandon and Alto. Right behind that gust front. This is all toward the radar. We're now using the Madison radar off to the south of it. Big time winds surging through here. Oak Center, you're next, and it looks like you're going to get the bulge of this RFD coming right through your location. And we're still watching the east side of this RFD for the potential formation of a tornado-like vortex. The good news is that it looks like it's passing to the west of Fond du Lac. It's not going to be that bad in Fond du Lac. Waupun, Waupun, Ripon and Waupun, Ripon and Waupun. But that is very strong winds coming into Alto there. Waupun coming into your location next. Waupun. I'm seeing all different kinds of pronunciations on here. Oak Center, definitely a bulging one coming into your location too. And there is some storm relative inflow on the east side of this massive RFD. That's what you're seeing right there. And this is the location we're watching for a potential tightening up of a tornado vortex there on the east side of this massive RFD blob right there. Big northerlies on the back side of it as well. But I think that the tornado potential, the good news is that it's passing just to the west of Fond du Lac. Oak Center. How do you pronounce that? Brandon. Atwater, that's that big blob, that RFD coming in from the north is headed toward your location next. Mayville as well. Ripon, Waupun. Mayville, Horicon, Beaver Dam, Fall River, all in the path of this. West Bend. Track this thing way out. This could even potentially impact the Milwaukee area. We're going way far in advance. But Milwaukeeans, keep an eye on that. Sheboyganites. It's probably going to pass to the west of there. Brandon. Okay. Let me get the velocity out of there. Come on. Look at that thing blast off to the south like that. West of Fond du Lac, Ripon took big northerlies there. Really the core of the RFD. So people that are watching from Ripon, let me know what kind of damage you received there. And that's basically what core of this RFD is going to cause. Barreling southward like a bowling ball to the west of Fond du Lac there. It looks like it was a failed attempt at generating a tornado-like vortex so far, but this big RFD is barreling southward so rapidly like a bowling ball that is definitely associated with damaging winds. Waupun, you're next. Horicon Marsh National Wildlife Refuge. Definitely see the westerly low-level jet here. West-southwesterly low-level jet ahead of this thing, but a lot of deep layer shear to maintain vertically oriented convection along this leading edge here. You really need that wind shear, deep layer shear as well. Waupun. I got Ripon. So right now we are tracking the development of a derecho, or a long-lived squall line event. Let's analyze the environment out ahead of this storm as well. There's also a 5% tornado threat tomorrow across southern, southeastern Pennsylvania. Wouldn't be surprised if that thing gets upgraded. At the very least, big windbag event out there. We still have this blob of instability over southern Wisconsin, feeding it. And if you look at mixed layer CAPE, you can get a better idea of the available CAPE there. You get a lot of mid-level lapse rates. These storms are basically elevated above the nocturnal inversion that's building in. But they do have the chance, when you get a strong mesocyclone, to dynamically pipe down to the ground and that's when you can get tornado potential. Let's move on over to the internet here. I thought I was already showing it to you. Showing the environment that these storms are nestled within. I'm still working the monsoon. I was out here in Utah, and it's just like a 35-hour drive to get to northern Wisconsin for a nighttime derecho event. Just figured I'd keep chasing the floods. So they're right next to my head. You can see the low-level shear that these things are still within. 3 to 400 effective storm relative helicity, a lot of low-level shear. But that wanes a little bit as that storm approaches far southern Wisconsin and shifts more toward Michigan in the early morning hours. And it looks like the strongest portion of this line could also shift toward the Michigan portion. The wrap now basically shows the western edge of this line weakening on approach to Chicago. Many of the models, though, still do show this line making it all the way down. Looks like our tornado warning was just allowed to expire as well there. Good news. Let's go back to reflectivity. First, I want to show you what the HRRR has this thing doing. It seems to have had a pretty good handle on this so far. See, I'm still in flash flood mode. Just love chasing flash floods. I'd say my #1 favorite thing to chase are tornadoes, and a close second are these desert flash floods. Even mountain flash floods, debris plugs as well, but hurricanes are a little bit further down the list. Winter storms, but still very enjoyable. This is the latest wrap analysis here at 5Z and then 6Z here. What time is it out there? About midnight right now, so pretty close to right now. Seeing if my brother there is in Oshkosh proper. So the HRRR actually holds together the western edge of that line pretty well through midnight. 1 a.m. Central, coming up here in an hour. Closing in the strongest portion of that storm, closing in on Milwaukee, coming up here in an hour or two. Look at that, just Milwaukee gets hammered. And then the western portion of that line begins to weaken as you start to lose that bulk shear available to this event. And then the convection gets a little bit more tilted along the leading edge of that. And sometimes these have the ability to survive all the way into that mid-level Cape blob that's in place over northern Illinois. So we'll just have to see if these will hang on. A little bit of warm air too coming in the mid-levels. But then this bow echo really keeps going over southern Lake Michigan. Arrives there on the western shores of southwestern lower Michigan. Grand Haven could get hammered by this thing, down to South Haven as well. Hinting at a big bow echo bulging out with the western edge of that bow starting to weaken over northern Illinois a bit. This is the latest, the new HRRR. And then it's still producing big wind across southwestern lower Michigan. Not sure if it'll officially qualify as a derecho. I bet it will, because you'll have damaging winds into Indiana, eventually into Ohio as well. Very long-lived damaging wind event. So now let's go back to radar reflectivity. Fond du Lac, you're getting hammered by heavy rain right now. Most damaging portion of the storm, though, is right there through Waupun. Big northwesterlies coming in here. Kind of an RFD that is really merging with the rest of the linear convective system as well. Even the forward flank is becoming part of that bulge. So this thing is definitely transitioning into a big-time wind event as it continues off to the south. The tornado threat doesn't look as immediate now, but if it did happen, it would happen between Waupun and Fond du Lac out here, halfway between these two towns. You're getting the big northerlies just east of town out there in Waupun, but potentially 50 to 60 mile an hour winds at your location. Not as much of the wind out there in Fond du Lac, but some heavy rain definitely. The biggest wind portion is definitely associated a little bit with those brighter colors there with that RFD. Now you do have a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings now for this convective complex. You're starting to lose the severe thunderstorm warnings off to the west as Starting to get some warm air, starting to get a little bit more of a tilted convection, just kind of some big outflow there. Shelf cloud likely preceding the heavier rain, a little bit more tilted convection on that side. Your strongest bulk shear is located further east on the eastern portion of this line. So that's what we're looking at. Tornado warning has been allowed to expire. Thank you guys for tuning in to my weather reports this evening. And I'll be going back live if more dangerous weather develops here. And I'm also going to continue to monitor the monsoon as I'm healing my eye infection that I got from those flash floods the last couple of days. Feels like it's totally healed now, so it's just lasting about a day or two. But was off the grid for a couple of days here in the Zion National Park area. Hope you guys have enjoyed these flash flood intercepts. We definitely have David Rankin, the flash flood guru, to thank for a lot of those intercepts, as he has navigated me flawlessly to be in position to intercept the front walls of these flash floods so far during this active monsoon here in the Southwest 2021. But thank you everybody for tuning into my weather reports. I'll probably be back live again later on this evening, but definitely stay tuned to those severe weather watches and warnings, southern Wisconsin and also southern lower Michigan.